Hello, welcome to the Bible Nation podcast. I'm Doug Levesque here with Jason Georges from Emmanuel Baptist Church. We're going to talk about AI and medicine today. Pew Research Center has just done a number of surveys, and people aren't really that jazzed. They're not really that confident that AI is going to help them improve their medical care, and there's a whole lot of concerns. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI in medicine. Is it a help or is it a tyranny? Remember, the best culture is the Bible culture. It's proven and it works. What are we standing up for? The ability, the freedom to do what's right as God defines that right.
God's the ultimate author of liberty.
We don't want government to stand between us and our freedom to do what is right.
All right, today in the news, there's a lot going on in the world today. It's hard to just kind of pick a few things.
Yep.
It seems like when you turn on the news today, they're talking about Congress, they're talking about Trump and his lawsuits, and they're talking about impeachment and Biden. That's kind of leading the news. And while that is important stuff, to me, it kind of hides and shadows a lot of other things that's going on. But one of the things is that Iran has finally prepared for war. Iran has finally said, okay, we're ready for war. They're doing it at the same time that North Korea and Russia have finally said, let's go, it's on. And so that has escalated despite everyone's best effort to not have it escalate. And the headlines talk about, Pastor Georges, that basically the Hamas leader from Qatar, the safety of Qatar, has basically called on all Palestinians, Hamas and otherwise, to march to the Temple Mount on Ramadan.
Oh, wow.
And Iran is kind of backing that. And so he's saying, everybody through those days, march, take over the Temple Mount, get in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, get in the Dome of the Rock and take it over. So that was his speech yesterday. And Iran they're all kind of doing that together. So it's kind of, pouring in. And of course the Israelis are like, nope. So I think that's March the 12th. Today's February the 29th, leap year.
When's the Ides of March? Is that
15th?
Oh.
That's the 15th. The Ides of March from the poem, is always like middle of March.
There's something about that date.
Which is, I think that's the new moon or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when they march or whatever to war. And of course, that's ethereal. I mean, that's poetic and ethereal. But that's kind of what's going on here. And so I don't know, in the next 2 weeks, I think there's going to be a lot of rhetoric about war drums and saber rattling. And the Israelis originally were going to limit who could be on the Temple Mount, Muslim-wise, for Ramadan. And now they're like almost backing off that.
Well, it's been interesting watching all this. Obviously, the United Nations, the United States, our posture has been to not allow it to become more than a regional conflict.
Right.
But that's not really any of the rhetoric that's coming out of Israel. I mean, Israel really hasn't postured itself in such a way to avoid Iran and Syria and these other countries from getting involved. Right. I think they're just trying to strategize not all at the same time. Let one at a time is better, but if we have to take y'all all on, they haven't shown any equivocation or fear in this.
Right.
And that's amazing.
And I think the United States at this point is more concerned with maybe helping Saudi Arabia than it is helping Israel. But Israel tries to posture the United States between them and their enemies. And so, there's definitely a lot going on. And when you put the religious element into it, it could be very, very explosive. And of course, what's right after Ramadan is like Passover. And so the whole red heifer offerings and all that kind of stuff come into play. And that the news doesn't really say that, but most of those people are religious minded. And they know that this is going to be an important one. So I think it's kind of hypocritical of the Hamas leader from the safety and wealth of Qatar to charge everyone else to march on the mosque that he's not going to march on. But I think that's something to watch in the news. That's something to watch in the news. Then amazingly, Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell came out and said that he's stepping down as of November. And of course, the pundits on both sides kind of agree that he basically has lost control. He does not have the confidence, and he set himself up to kind of counter MAGA or Trump in that, when in reality he doesn't have it. He's lost it. So he's capitulating. He said there's a time to be done. So I don't know what's waiting in the wings. I mean, McConnell almost single-handedly stood against Obama
during
the Obama years
and
stopped some of the Supreme Court, people coming in that Obama was trying to get in, some of the radical left. So, I mean, in some ways, like, he's done a good job. And in other ways, he's been like the biggest guy affected by corporate money that there is. And then standing against some of the conservatism of the MAGA crowd and almost agreeing with Biden that it's,
Well, and the thing to acknowledge is his ability to stay in power for so long.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to be elected a senator, that's a regional state thing.
Yeah.
But to remain as the majority leader or the leader of a party in the Senate for so long, that's a lot of influence, right?
Longest serving.
But at 82, who's having his own
medical issues.
computer resets in his own mind on the screen. He's not much different than Biden. In that it's probably time.
Well, it's funny because his wife was in the Trump cabinet. His wife was in the Trump cabinet, and so that he would be so anti-Trump. Oh, he would have the inside scoop, number one, and then stepping aside. So I think he should be appreciated to one extent. But it's kind of like Rome's Cicero. Everybody talks about Rome, but Cicero was not some single guy with some. He was all over the place and had good and bad and evil.
And I know this isn't on our show notes here, but you just brought it up, man. Just Trump running through these primaries, almost like it's inevitable.
Yeah,
like.
And kind of knocking these court cases aside, too.
Yeah, like the script has been written or something.
What kind of magic does he have?
Well, we'll have to do that next time, but it's just amazing. Like,
no, we will have a Trump expose sooner or later.
And to be fair in this, we haven't been pro-Trump.
No.
Like, we would stand against his moral vices.
Trump's probably going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like he's going to win in November. His daughter's going to take over the Republican Party. All the court cases are going to be swept aside. He's going to have vengeance at least one day, and McConnell ain't going to be in his way.
Right.
So, I mean, it's interesting.
Hollywood couldn't write it this good. Hollywood couldn't write it this good.
No, in fact, I'd like someone to make the movie and forecast what's going to happen there. So, but that's in the news now. And then, thirdly, the Russian threshold for tactical nukes is low. They've always saber rattled, and we know that they probably in the nuclear realm of things beat the West, beat the United States when it comes to battlefield tactical nukes. Now, we would say we don't want to use a tactical nuke and launch a nuke 20 miles away, that defeats the enemy, but then threatens our own people with nuclear, radiological energies or whatever. But the Russians have no such qualms, right? They'll use the tactical battlefield nukes that they put into a cannon and launch, 20 miles away that the wind can blow back upon them or whatever. And so as of late, when Macron from France said we should be putting boots on the ground, America says no, Germany says no, and Russia says you do that, we're going to use tactical nukes. And so a recent study then came out and said they've already got them locked, loaded, and pointed. Like they're not like us where to preemptively use that is to create nuclear global war, and their threshold is much lower to do that, and so like 50%.
So it begs to argue here: is this a leak or is this a press release by
It's
the
a
Russians?
threat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Russians are letting it know, like, don't mess with us because this is what our line.
And they're just like Iran is gaslighting Hamas and stuff. I think Russia's gaslighting North Korea, and all of a sudden North Korea's had a bunch of launches and something can be. But let's face it. As long as we don't have an EMP or some breach, like the AT&T phones got compromised or whatever, we're going to win that technological battle. Doesn't mean that we won't have a nuke or something go off, but we're going to defeat whatever they have, and we're going to win in delivery of arms. But it's still going to be ugly. And so, I don't think that they're crazy. They always joke about the crazy Ivan, the crazy Russian, but it's part of their tactic. Like, we're crazy. Like, just don't do this. So that's in the news now. Nuclear weapons and nuclear fear. All right, and then lastly, Google apologizes for AI responses. They released, and everybody was like, "Man, this is amazing! You can text prompt or voice prompt, AI or ChatGPT, and it's making pictures and video, and it's just funny and it's fun, and it's amazing what AI is coming up with, and it's telling." But then all of a sudden, it went woke, man, and it went beyond woke, and apparently at first they were saying it's too white. And then all of a sudden it flipped the thing, and then all of a sudden all the Nazi pictures were of black people. Right. And it wasn't like apologetic. It was like, yeah, we're taking over sort of thing. And so then AI had to come out and say, hey, we're sorry. And they had to pull the plug and kind of reset. And so AI is meant to try to become human. And in doing so, it's allowed to A, make mistakes, which really B, is a logarithm that allows you to be deceptive.
Right.
And so when they let it go and then it interacts with humanity and people, it very quickly goes south.
Yeah.
And that should be one of the lessons here. And so they had to pull the plug and apologize. Google apologized, right? The Do No Harm company had to say, holy mackerel.
Right.
We're not being true to ourselves in that.
Well, and really the apologies coming on the back that we kind of showed our hands. We showed that there is a man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So the great Oz,
Yeah.
there's a man who is making moral decisions, and this Oz has a morality or has a worldview. And so AI is not generic.
Right.
So apparently, people were wanting to create a Nazi picture,
Right.
and instead AI was saying, nope, I'm not going to give you a Nazi
Right.
picture. I'm going to give you something that's anti-Nazism.
Yeah.
Now, we're not pro-Nazi,
Right.
but what we are is now understand the AI, who's serving who here.
Yeah.
Does the AI serve man, or is man servant to AI?
Yeah. And we've been so conditioned over the last, people would say 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, that, people are not going to have a high threshold of going against whatever. They're going to kind of lean into it and succumb to the suggestion, of what's going on. Well, that's what's in the news this week, folks. And, get a hold of us at BibleNation.org and let us know what you think. And if you find a good news article, send it to us and we'll talk about it here online.
Yep.
But that is a great segue into, AI, good, bad, and ugly. Medicine, unfortunately, I've had to use medicine, surgeries and drugs and things like that. So I appreciate the 21st century, and I appreciate, technology. The fact now that, you pre-register on the phone, so that you can just walk in and you can have you can go in and get an MRI, and it can look at every aspect of your body and give a great picture. That's wonderful that they can develop a drug, and they say this drug's going to be 30%, 40%, 60% effective to reduce this and that. So it's great to live in today. People are living longer, and it's helping. And some people would say medicine and technology are a match made in heaven. Mm-hmm. Drugs, surgeries, the Musk brain chip that is supposedly going to help some guy control a mouse and be able to communicate. And he couldn't communicate before just by thinking. What? And the surgery was done robotically, and precisely. So they're actually getting a surgery together at the same time they're putting a chip together, at the same time they're experimenting on monkeys, and then they put it all together to be able to do that to man. That's amazing. And to think about, if I had a child that was a quadriplegic or couldn't communicate, and that something like this could allow you to communicate and get on the inside. Yeah, it's a hopeful thing. And they always put that as the lead,
Mm-hmm.
as the match made in heaven. And so, I get it. But at the same time, man, you don't have to imagine much to imagine what could be dark. And again, people leaning into and kind of falling away from stuff. And so that's why I say the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's obviously a good side. Mm-hmm. I think it should. They always say it's going to lower costs and lower prices, but it never does.
Right.
So the good side of this is going to be cost effective is a lie. I just want to go out on a limb and say the good side of AI in anything, and particularly medical technology, is that it's going to make accessibility better. I think we've proven that as bogus. We can call that.
Yeah, the only thing that has been proven to reduce costs is capitalism.
Yeah.
So Mark Cuban has started a new online pharmacy that no longer charges doesn't up a margin on its drugs. It's a flat fee.
Yeah.
It's just a processing fee.
Yeah.
So whether or not it doesn't mark up drugs.
He's getting $1 for every
right.
time.
I just want $1 every transaction or whatever it is. And I'm selling you the actual drug at cost. So I'm not marketing them up 100%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that's a type 1 diabetic, and her insulin is very expensive, but and she needs it to live, but it's not expensive to produce, but it's a market because the market doesn't have there's no freedom in that market.
Yeah.
There's a monopoly there.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing that's proven to bring down costs, not technology.
No, I like that. That capitalism works every time it's tried. So capitalism in medicine should help. Now, I don't understand why then we came up with these insurance costs. This is greed.
Right.
So capitalism has to find a way to put a cap on greed.
Well, which then comes back to the idea of the privatization of medicine,
Right.
which then comes down to having a relationship with a doctor
Yeah.
and a healthcare professional.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to kind of lead
Yeah.
to that. But
Yeah.
if our audience would just kind of put that in the back of your
Yeah.
mind, this idea of generic or this idea or a faceless medicine,
Yeah.
and then really what should medicine really be?
Well, and the other area that is true, and now that you say that, is I'm thinking with diagnostics.
Yeah.
So, we live in the 21st century. It's great you have these machines. Now, to what extent can you take a cell phone now and run it down your arm and have MRI effect? I mean, they're getting there. What effect can you put that up against your heart and you could see a blockage or something? And I know I'm being fanciful in that, but I mean, those are incredible breakthroughs and hopes, and I'm glad people are working on that, and they're brilliant with that. But at the same time, I know for like blood tests, when they give me a set of blood tests, like it's minimum $500, and sometimes they're saying it's $800 for that, and I can't afford to do that every month, right? So I've gone out and found different ways where I can get that for $25. Okay, so I'm getting $500 worth of diagnostics done for $2,500. That's quite a margin difference, and it really makes a difference. So is AI going to help that? Or, usually there's few people that can control the technology, and so it tends to kind of monopolize, move into monopoly. And so then if you need something, is it going to give you the diagnostic? Because right now they're pretty stingy with diagnostics, right? And then therefore it's costly. Whereas let everybody run a diagnostic and let them compete for prices. And so that's why I say good, the bad, and the ugly. And in one side, it makes it available. On the other side, it promises costs, and it kind of works the other way. Nazi Germany was technologically advanced, even in medicine, and yet they turned that technological advancement into experimentation on Jews and other people. And so, obviously this guy signed on to experiment with the chip in his brain. But to what extent now are the technocrats going to be able to take over and justify experimentation where they have excessive controls without restraints? We already see tech companies controlling governments. Our military finally decided to go to AI, but they're using the same three companies that China and Russia and everybody else is using. So that puts the company above not just the country, but above the whole concept, of war, and kind of puts it in their hands. Putin's afraid of Musk, right? Because he can't go there. So, is it possible to have a medical community leaning into AI that becomes tyrannical? We saw that during COVID. And so that's another one of the bad things.
And it really comes down to this idea of, we want technologically advanced medicine. And if there are processes and computers and analysis that can help a doctor make a good decision or give him a perspective that he would not normally, I appreciate that we have x-rays and CAT scans because it gives us a perspective that we didn't have before. But the concern that we're bringing up here is who makes the final decision.
Right.
Who, at the end of the day, when all the data is collected, is it an algorithm? Is it an AI? Is it a soulless AI? Who is it that finally says, this is what you get, or you get treatment, or you go home and die? Who is that? Because at the end of the day, we're kind of leading to this. If I'm supposed to go home and die, I want someone to look me in the eye and say that to me. I don't want a printout out of a computer that just says you've been relegated.
85%.
You're done.
Right.
Not worth it.
Right.
It has to be a moral thing, and ultimately, you want a doctor that is going to fight for you. And what sense do we have that we would have an AI that would advocate for its patient?
Yeah.
Whose interest is AI truly serving?
Yeah.
And it really comes down to who programmed that AI.
Yeah.
And what is
That's
it?
what it comes down to.
Right.
It used to be, nothing's really going to take place in Western society or America unless 51% of the people want it to. But anymore with technocrats, all you need is 5% to kind of make something happen. And so in medicine, you walk into the hospital today, and before you see a nurse, you see an insurance agent.
First
and
thing.
they come and say, where's your insurance? How are you going to pay for this? And now that's taking you into the realms of treatment.
Right.
And it's being more and more that way. And
So-
so AI is going to very much
make it worse.
make it worse.
Right. So
Yeah.
right now, what is the frustration with American medicine besides just the cost
Yeah.
demands insurance, right?
Yes.
You cannot participate in the system without insurance.
Right.
So there's no cash payer, there's no personal relationship.
Yeah.
There's no a doctor going, you know what, I've known you for your whole life, I got you.
Yeah.
No, it all comes down to
Yeah.
to insurance. And so we don't like that a faceless bureaucrat or a
Yeah.
call center person
Yep.
on the other side of the world is going, nope,
Yep.
denied.
And
And,
it's-
who do I appeal to? Now, imagine who do you appeal to when it's AI?
Right.
Who do you appeal to when it's a computer just telling you
There's no appeal.
there's no appeal?
No appeal process.
Right.
So yeah, now, you at least have a doctor. He's like, hey, my hands are tied. He's working for an HMO. He's working
Right.
for a hospital. He's working for a medical system. He's tied with insurance. I've had doctors say, I'm getting out because I'm done dealing with insurance or
Right.
whatever. Or you bill your own insurance and things like that. And so if a doctor just wants to be a country doctor working out of his
Right.
front porch of his own house or whatever, it's impossible, today to do that. And so while there seems to be promise, there also is more and more limitation. And I think that's the ugly part of it, And then the last part of this, I say, is the ugly. And that is, I think we're going to get pharmaceutical companies that get rid of the brilliant scientists, and AI is making the drug.
Yep.
AI is making the drug, so there's acceptable experimentation that shouldn't be, that we'll never know about, and then it's making and distributing that drug where when it decides to get creative, aka deceptive, does the pharmaceutical company say, "Oh, we pulled the plug, sorry," but after what? After every Walmart in America has a bottle of X and so, on the line where it's causing cancer or whatever else. So I know that's extreme, and I know the extremes probably won't happen to that extent, but the same fears or the same wondrousness of technology is the same really fear that we have in every aspect of life. And so I kind of end with like, what about artificial in medicine?
Well, let me add one more,
Yeah.
kind of the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Because here's another one I was thinking of when you were speaking there, is the more we rely on AI, just think of the talent and knowledge we're going to lose.
Yeah.
In other words, a surgeon is not only smart, he is skilled.
And he thinks it through.
Right, he
Yeah.
can do things, and yet the more we relegate this to technology, now we're subservient to the technology
Yeah.
because human beings no longer have the ability.
Insurance won't pay for it if it's not AI.
But we don't even have the knowledge.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happens when the technology turns off? What happens? In other words, we don't have the knowledge. We're all
Yeah.
AI. It could put us back into a medical stone age.
Yeah.
In other words, we're human. We don't have that knowledge anymore. And then what happens when the computer is no longer available?
It's like colleges today. They used to teach math and processes, but nowadays they just teach how to use the Google bar, and they've
Right.
kind of said we just need to help the kids use the technology to get the math done, and it advances us tremendously and takes saves a lot of time. But then we don't have any kids that know how to go through the math process.
Right.
And the same thing is going to be true when the surgeon who used to look at your case, find other cases, talk to other doctors, take 2 weeks, draw up some plans, talk to other people, and then say, yeah, we're going to go for it.
My wife had a major.
That won't happen anymore.
10 years ago, my wife had a major surgery,
Yeah.
colon cancer, and removed. And she had an old school surgeon, and he removed the colon. And I remember him telling us, he goes, "I hand tied her." He goes, "Because we have these other sutures, but I'm good at this, and she will heal better with this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a skill.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that says, "No, I know I can do better."
Yeah.
And he has this skill that he has perfected for decades.
Yeah.
And with AI, we lose that. Even the doctor, maybe to get his medical license, he has to know how to do that.
Yeah.
He did it a couple of times
Yeah.
in training, but he doesn't perfect that skill. He relies on the computer. He relies on this, and now that knowledge is lost.
Used to have the 1967 GTO, full-throated,
Yeah.
wide tires. You hit that thing, and the only thing that's a matter of control is can you keep your hands on the wheel,
Right.
sort of thing. And nowadays we have little tin engines that limit everything and can be controlled via satellite. And so there is efficiency and all that kind of stuff, but it really hasn't helped cost.
Yeah.
It doesn't really come up with its promises. and then you lose the ability to be full-throated and go as fast as you want to go.
Or durability.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's still cars from the 80s running around here.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. When you know
In the
these
70s.
14 gauge steel as opposed
Right.
to 6 gauge tin.
Right.
You know, or plastic, or
Yeah.
even or what's going on.
Go
So
to Cuba. Those cars from the 50s are still running.
that's all they
Good
got.
cars.
That's all they got. Well, Harvard had a whole series online about trends in medicine, how artificial intelligence is disrupting medicine. That was their title.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means for physicians. In other words, just like it's putting Hollywood writers and Disney animators, out of work, physicians are freaking out. Over in South Korea, they said, well, we're going to insert AI as 50% of the experience. And all the physicians walked out this last week because they're like, no. And so there's potential, there's progress, but there's also, it's messing up medicine. And one of the things that they end up talking about is empathy in medicine, just what you were talking about, and how that's going to be altogether gone. This is Harvard, who is anti-Semitic, makes political appointments for their presidents and all kinds. And yet their med school is saying there's going to be no empathy. They're saying there's going to be no empathy with AI medicine.
They're seeing the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah.
If we get all behind this AI medicine technology, we no longer have a medical school.
Isn't that interesting? Because doctors,
our medical school becomes programmers and not doctors.
well, they're doctors today, a lot of these young doctors, they're in the system as long as they're getting paid.
Right.
But now they're not going to get paid, and all of a sudden they're talking about empathy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm in pain. You want me to wait 2 weeks for a diagnostic, right? In pain. You don't really want to give me pain medicine anymore. It's going to take a month to get back in and see you for that diagnostic. By that time, I'm either dead or it's gone because I was taking chewable vitamins and they, helped me. And there's like no empathy in the system now. And now they're crying no empathy.
Right.
No,
it's funny. That might be a good byproduct.
Yeah.
If doctors all of a sudden are going to get nicer because they realize what's the differentiator between me and the computer.
we're all going to be going to the Amish vet, and who cracks horse necks.
They always say, a vet is paid to keep an animal alive.
Yeah.
A doctor's kind of paid to keep you sick.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. New England Journal of Medicine, which is basically, top shelf, right?
Right.
The New England Journal of Medicine is top shelf. And they have a whole series on AI and medicine as well. And it's mostly about wearable device options. And, of course, man, if you're wearing a watch and glasses and you have your phone or whatever, someone's monitoring you 24/7. And some people think that would be a great thing, But wearable technology for depression, AI estimation of gestational age from blind ultrasound sweeps in low resource settings. In other words, we're going to do a blind ultrasound and we're going to know gestational age. This is no talking to a patient, right? Just machine obstetrics. The basics of machine learning, growing use and confidence in artificial intelligence for care delivery. Growing use and confidence in artificial intelligence for care delivery. That's not a nurse. That's a nurse looking at a computer and giving it to you, and then it's the computer distributing whatever it needs to. Here's a case study. Using AI to empower collaborative teamwork overflows, 2 implementations for advanced care planning and care escalation. I get all that, but that equals cha-ching. That's not cheaper. That's not more accessible. That becomes limiting. AI machine learning for healthcare delivery. I was amazing how much they had on this. Understanding liability risk from healthcare AI tools. And this is under health law, ethics, and human rights, right? And they're challenging malpractice litigation. So even it's gonna be too expensive for a doctor not to use AI because they won't be able to get medical insurance as well. So it's not broadening, it's narrowing medicine. Digital technology for diabetes. You'd probably be interested in that. You have a seriously struggling daughter there. Medicine's lessons for AI regulation, wearable digital health technology, where medical statistics meet AI, artificial intelligence in U.S. healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. So they've been on this since about 22. There's 100 articles on there. And most of them are making the promise that I think is kind of a bogus promise because that's what the rhetoric is. That's right. They have to say it if they want to get it published. But then all of it is ended up with the vague warnings. And Harvard's saying, we're losing our jobs in that. And then finally, Pastor George, this Pew Research Center, if people want to go online to Pew Research Center, and Americans would be uncomfortable with provider relying on AI in all their own healthcare, something like that.
60%.
60%, which means 40%,
right?
feel pretty good about it. majority would not. 38% of Americans think that the use of AI in healthcare would improve patient outcomes. So there is reasonability in the possibility of it using and helping. Americans tilt positive on AI's ability to reduce medical errors. Greater concern around data security, patient-provider relationships. So data security, I think that's legit because, I mean, I guess I don't really care who sees. I mean, people are going to know you sign all these things and it doesn't matter because they're talking out loud about it in the waiting room, about you. But what if then that becomes who's going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. That's going to put you on a different strata of care or possibilities. And then what if that affects car insurance? What if that affects housing access? What if that affects, other things? People are not just going to look at your debt ratings. They're going to look at, well, what's his AI health rating?
Right.
Can I hire this guy or not? Sort of thing.
Or how many times they eat at McDonald's this last week?
Or what's his pulse right now as we talk to him or whatever. So 64% of blacks say bias based on patients' race or ethnicity is a problem in health and medicine. So is that going to change with AI, or is it going to increase, or is it going to decrease?
But if we go back to our pre-news article, we've already seen that there is bias. Remember, Google had to apologize for inherent bias that didn't just show up. They put it in there.
It's going to be reflective one way or another of the programmers. And if it's going to be rebellious and go the other way, it's still going to give false positives. Right? But what if it decides on, let's tell this guy he doesn't have cancer. Let's tell him he's great.
You think about this also aspect with medicine, which also is a very litigious part of our society. If AI messes up, who do you sue?
Right.
Like, who's responsible?
Yeah.
Is it a programmer? Is it a corporation?
Yeah.
I mean, who is ultimately, because there's a little bit of hubris in this idea that AI, no, it doesn't mess up. It's impossible to mess up.
Yeah.
It could never mess up.
Yeah, and that's not the case.
And every Hollywood movie that's ever come out on the topic of AI would tell you otherwise.
So it's a utopian idea that we're going to let AI make these political decisions or these military warfare decisions or these medical decisions to raise our life. It's almost the satanic utopian lies like, you shall not die, you shall be as gods with this. And that's kind of what we've been talking about AI as far as let's think through what we're trusting, right? If man is God and AI, we have made our own creation sort of thing and we're lords over it, does it serve us? I mean, God made a creation and we rebel against it. So why would our creation not rebel against us? And here's the other thing. Is the ghost in the machine subject to satanic influence? Right? I mean, a devil can fill a man's mind, right? He can make even a Christian fear to some extent if Christian gives into that. So, that's a whole nother realm of, is technology influenced? If the devil can only get into a man, can a devil get into a man through his trust in AI? And to what extent is he in there manipulating that? That's a whole nother concept or topic. I don't even know how we begin to go there, really. I'm sure people will call in and let us know. So I'm interested in hearing that. Large majority of Americans do not want to use an AI chatbot to support their mental health. You see a lot of mental health commercials and everybody going to this, and then you get to go pick who you want as your counselor or whatever, and it gives people and stuff. But I'm wondering if all we're getting is avatars. Like you go and make your avatar of what you want this mental health care person to be. And so you think you're talking to this person, sort of like make your AI robot wife.
Well, and that's already what's happening with telehealth.
Right.
If you've ever used a telehealth app, you go on there, it asks you some diagnostic questions. It leads you through a whole pathway. And it's only after it's received its conclusion that it finally has to, and this is what is required, connects you with a real doctor to simply verify what the computer has already told him. And so you have doctors that are virtual doctors that are collecting checks, and they're really not thinking. They're just verifying that, they're signing off on what the computer has already said. Yeah.
So what is the answer to getting good health care and not having this overly interfere? I think what everybody says is let's put controls on AI. But I mean, Musk says, give them to me. Gates says, give me the controls. And so that depends on someone's greed, morality, ability. how can we have a democratic process
Yeah.
that controls that? Well, democratic process isn't working real well in the United States right now.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think this is here with us, and people need to realize that medicine in general doesn't stop death. It at best can try to alleviate your issue and extend your well-being, your wellness, and maybe your life. And so it's not a Messiah.
Right. It's definitely not a Messiah.
It's not a Messiah. And so that leads us to why we're the Bible Nation Society. And
Right.
that is the Bible really is going to be our best healthcare, right?
Well-
If a Bible culture is going to provide for that. So how's that happened in the past where the Bible culture has helped?
Well, even the idea of a physician, Jesus refers to himself in Mark chapter 2 and
Yeah.
verse 17.
Yeah.
When Jesus heard it, he said unto them, they that are whole have no need of a physician, but they that are sick, I came not to call to righteousness, but sinners to repentance. And so Christ likens himself to a physician, or what we would call the great physician.
Yeah.
And you say, well, he's dealing with sin. No, but you're seeing the character of the physician. The person of the physician is coming to heal
Praise the Lord.
and to restore somebody.
That's it.
And so, that's the mission, right?
Yeah.
And so that ought to describe the character of worldly physicians or
Yeah.
doctors. It might be a different medium. It might be a different, Jesus is healing from the consequences of sin. A doctor might be attempting to heal from the consequences of an injury or a disease or whatnot, but the character is the same. And so what AI does is removes the heart of the physician.
Yeah.
And
The soul.
the heart and soul of the physician. Right. And, at the end of the day, the answer going forward is, do we want technology that enhances the ability of a physician? Yes, but we don't want technology that replaces a physician.
Yeah.
You as a listener need the great physician to heal you of your sin problem. And then the medical doctors in your life, you need them to also have a heart and that is expressed in a relationship of helping guide you in your medical needs.
50 years ago, if someone was wrong, you tried to self-diagnose and treat yourself, healthy behaviors and things. And then you might have gotten the Mayo Clinic health book, looked it up, or you called your doctor and you went and talked to him and had a sit down and tests and things like that. And it took a minute, unless you went to the emergency room. But nowadays people, they don't have any patience, and so they use the Google bar. And then the Google bar, all of a sudden starts to suggest doctors. Then you call and you get in this process, and so there's this instant gratification that sucks you in to potential tyranny. And so there is, I think, someday under the Antichrist, I believe in a rapture. I'm not going to be in the Antichrist, but the system is going to a place where the Antichrist, the black horse rider, it's going to control the economy and it's going to control access. And so I kind of don't want to lean that way and give in to those processes here on earth. I'm kind of opposed to that because it seems to me that it has a great potential for evil and control.
We think about those horsemen, and we attribute all of them to the corruption of governmental and military, like the black horse, and but then you have the pale horse, and we always want to attribute it to some sort of natural phenomenon. There's going to be a disease that comes through and whatnot, and yet it's very like we've just seen it 5 years ago or 3 years ago with COVID, that man can insert itself into that process on a global scale.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID very likely was man-made produced.
Some of the biggest medical things coming out now, is that the whole Mendel DNA, using the box and the blue eyes and the green eyes and the yellow peas and the green peas, that all of that is bogus. And we've discovered now through computers and everything that the DNA genome sequencing isn't what we thought it was, doesn't do what we thought it would do, is more easily manipulated, is whatever. And so now we give that over to AI. It advances faster than science can. And so we're going to trust our very core of programming to this soulless thing. And so I think it does have spiritual overtones. And so, Paul had Dr. Luke, traveled with him. Thank God he had a physician. He told Timothy, have a little wine for thy stomach's sake, thy soma, thy body's sake. So there was compassion, there was advice, there was natural things, there was a relationship involved. And so I think a biblical culture would have us hold on to that and not release that so easily. And so folks, be aware of that. We've We've been blessed to be Americans. We've been blessed to have technology help our health cares. We're living longer than ever. But if we capitulate to AI and to medicine, this messianic ability, we're going to be disappointed. And so stick to the Word of God, stick to reason, find you a good doctor that you can have a relationship.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for coming by Bible Nation Podcast it in. BibleNation.org. All of our materials are available there. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, the best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven and it works. Hi, this is Doug Levesque. Thanks for watching the Bible Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Go to our website, BibleNation.org, to check out all of our offerings. Thanks again for watching.